Alrighty, we are recording. Welcome everyone. My name is Mackenzie. I'm the founder of Grad Jobs, and today I'm interviewing Pragoon. Pragoon's a senior associate at Cognizant, a billion-dollar global consulting firm, and he's based out of Melbourne. He finished high school in Brussels before coming over to Melbourne as an international student to complete his bachelor's in economics and master's in information systems. Before joining Cognizant, he worked as an intern with Nestle and in the banking sector. I met Pragoon back in 2022, and he really impressed me. This was before he kind of jumped into the world of tech consulting. So I thought it would be great to have him on the podcast so that budding tech consultants, students, graduates can learn more about how to get into the field and the struggles that he faced along the way. So welcome, Pragoon. How are you?
Thank you. Yeah, doing well.
So what would you say is the biggest lesson that you learned breaking into this field?
Yeah, so biggest lesson from my point of view is actually understanding what you're getting yourself into. You know, I had a lot of friends, myself included, when I was in economics. I always wanted to go into investment banking, for example, without actually knowing what you have to do to go in there, what you will have to do once you get there, the sort of hours that you have to pull, etc., etc. So really doing your research and finding out what the industry is like, if it's actually suited for you, and if you will actually like doing the job and whether or not you'll be good at it.
When do you think someone should start figuring this all out?
I think as early as possible would be the best way to do it. So if you're at uni, doing internships, going to networking events, just even simple YouTube or Googling on the day-to-day life of a consultant or an investment banker, for example. Yeah, just as early as possible before you graduate and actually get into the industry that you want to get into.
So would you say it's important to do it prior to picking your degree?
Yeah, so to me, degree at a point, I mean, the work that I'm doing, it does matter, but I wouldn't say it matters too much. If you're doing a very specialist degree, say you want to be an engineer, then you would have to do an engineering degree. But a lot of the jobs out there in consulting, you don't really need to do a specific degree for those jobs. So pick something that you like and you actually think you would excel in and in your degree. But it's never too late to actually start considering what sort of jobs are out there and what would be suited to the skills that you have. For me, I like to go out there, talk to people, try to understand, for example, my field, try to understand what it entails. So I had a tutor. He used to work for PwC as an Oracle financials consultant, and I really got a lot out of him. I can't be happy enough to go talk to him about what does he have to do, what sort of hours he has to do, the sort of clients he has to meet, what are the expectations, etc., etc. So I like to talk to people as much as I can, although I do consider myself introverted, but in this industry, it's all about knowing people and moving on from there.
So what do you do? What's a day in the life of a tech consultant at Cognizant?
Yeah, so I work in the Workday financials team. So for those of you don't know what Workday is, it's an ERP system, predominantly started with human capital, so HR processes and whatnot. But then they slowly moved into other areas like financials, payroll, etc. So I'm in the financials team. I sit there. And my job is basically when companies are deciding on implementing Workday system, financials, that's when we come in. But it's not just about buying the system and just turning it on and ready to go. There are a lot of processes, a lot of legal stuff that they have to abide by. And our job as consultants is to make sure that we are configuring all these Workday functionality to meet their business requirements. So each company will have very specific business requirements. Some, like mining company versus a retail company, would be very different. So it's about configuring those business processes, talking to their team, understanding what they actually need, and just configuring those processes to make sure that it works for them.
So how does your day typically look like? When do you kind of wake up? When do you go to work? When do you come home?
So wake up, if I'm working from home, I would wake up a bit late, say around 8, but usually I'm on the computer by 8:45, 9 latest. And then from then on, it's just work, have lunch breaks in the middle. If it's a bit of a free time, then try and reach out to other consultants if they need help with anything. Finish workday by 5:30. Sometimes it might be a bit late.
So when you're actually doing the work, what would you say is the task that you find yourself doing most often? For example, are you looking at, data integrations, or are you doing meetings to get requirements, or?
Yeah, so it depends on the the cycle of the project. So early on, there'll be a lot of meetings. There's different components of the financial software that we have to present to the client to show what it can do. But then later on, we're actually getting data and stuff. It's a lot of Excel work. So you move from PowerPoint to Excel, and it's not the same type of Excel that we did as students. It's really massive. These are, I haven't seen rows extended to that far out and columns that long. So it's really a lot of Excel work. And then after that, you move that data. So you would go to the other part where it's actually configuring the actual program itself, the system itself. So it's all about doing Workday stuff, so making sure and testing. So yeah.
So in Excel, is that where you're sourcing data from the client and I guess like cleaning it up before you kind of plug it into Workday?
Yeah, definitely. So they give us the data in a format that we ask, but sometimes it might not be perfect. And our job is to clean it up, make sure that it's exactly where it needs to be. And when we upload it into the system, it needs to meet very specific requirements. Otherwise, it will just not accept it. Since we're in the financials team, we are dealing with a lot of numbers, and we have to be very careful with making sure the right data is in, because sometimes, you might just, if you put in the wrong zero, 1 million could just turn into 100,000, and that's not good.
What percentage of your work would you say is doing that stuff in Excel?
A good 20 to 30%, maybe even more, depending on what the project is and depending on what my role is. So it depends on a lot of things.
And the rest of the work, how much would you say is, say, team meetings?
I would say it's around 60 to 70%. A lot of team meetings, a lot of prep before the client meetings. Like your director could just call you out of nowhere and ask you to fix some portion of the RFPs, etc., etc. So yeah.
So if someone wants to get into this kind of field, they've got to get really good at their communication skills, how they communicate with their team, presenting, but then also through emails and things like that. But also they've got to understand, I guess, how systems work and how to use Excel, basically.
Yeah. So the good thing about Workday is if you're joining as a grad in any of the Workday consulting firms like Cognizant or PwC or KPMG, you will have to go through a rigorous Workday certification process, and the company pays for that. So you will learn how the system works, but having that prior knowledge on how to do Excel and stuff is obviously a plus.
How important would you say are problem-solving skills in your role?
Quite important, I think, but not in the way where you're solving very general problems. It's very Workday focused problems. So if a client says, this thing is not working, then it's a very big system. So you would have to figure out where that backlog is. So having that Workday problem solving skills is quite important, and that does come with experience.
Yeah, and I saw you recently got promoted to a senior associate. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
What's the process for becoming a senior?
Yeah, so just the main thing is with any other firms as well, I assume, to just not mess it up. The main thing is to ask a lot of questions and just perform as much as you can, and promotions there.
What's the main difference between your current position and your previous position?
The responsibility is there, definitely, but in my previous position, it was more of a support role, which I understand as a grad, you don't know much about the system. So when you go into client meetings, for example, most of the time you're taking notes, making sure, gauging everyone's reaction to certain stuff. But when you're in this position now, I actually have to do those 3-hour-long presentations. With more responsibility comes more pay as well. So I'm happy with it.
Was it smooth sailing for you getting this job?
Oh no, it was very, very tricky. I used to have a list before. I applied to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of jobs, but then again, my way of doing it was wrong. I was more about quantity over quality. So for this one, it was a bit different, but yeah, it was very tricky, very tricky.
And what would you say is the main thing that you did when you were successful? What made that difference versus when you applied to hundreds of jobs and didn't get too many results?
Yeah, so it was just about not tailoring my CV, not tailoring my cover letter, because I would send the same CV for PwC and some other firm, one consulting and the other ones for some other industry. So tailoring that CV, very important. And reaching out after you've applied or before you apply to someone in the company. Obviously getting a referral is can go a long way, but I do have my doubts on those because I've seen referrals from partners get rejected on the first go. So, but if you can reach out to, for example, what I did was reach out to the hiring manager, it goes a long way. So they know who you are. They can see your LinkedIn profile. They can reach out to you whenever they need to without going through the formal email, etc., etc. So yeah, reaching out to whoever's hiring or will be in charge of it.
So before you switched strategies and you started basically networking a little bit alongside your application, what was your success rate like versus after? How many applications to get one interview?
I would say 50 applications to get one interview if I was lucky, if the day was going well. But I could go through 100 applications and get nothing, just get rejection emails.
And when you changed the approach, was it better?
It was better. I did get a lot of feedback, which was quite important to see where I was going wrong. But also, it doesn't hurt to get connections along the way, because you never know in this industry where someone might come out and save you or out of something, or getting those connections along the way. That was what I was looking for. So I did sort of change my mindset. It was less about getting the job, but it was more about connecting with people who are in the industry, who, even if I don't get the job in the industry, I can later come into through these connections.
Got it. So it started off like 100 to 1, 50 to 1 in terms of applications to interviews. And when you switched it?
Yeah, obviously my application rate, the rate over which I applied went down with this new strategy, because it did take a lot of time to tailor the CV and whatnot. So yeah, I would say 20, 30 to 1, it got a lot better. But like I said, the connections I made along the way, those are the ones that I think were more important than the interview itself.
And how many total interviews did you get when you were going for graduate roles? You obviously got one from your current company.
Got one from PwC, got one from other smaller firms. I would say 5 or 6.
And then one offer.
Yeah.
And what would you say made you stand out?
Yeah, that's the question not just me, but the other grad who's in with me. That's the question we ask each other every day. Like, why us? Why not the other, I think it was 200 applicants who applied on LinkedIn, and I don't know where else they posted. But from what I think, it's the referral that I got from the hiring managers. So I initially applied for the HCM, so the human capital division first, but I reached out to the hiring manager saying, this is my experience, what do you think? And he clearly told me that you're not fit for this, you should go for the financials role. So from then on, I started this connection with him, and he really liked my communication skills. I'm assuming he liked that I could talk to him about what I want to do with my career, and he saw there's something. So from then on, it was just about doing the interviews, doing any sort of test that they throw at me, etc., etc. So I think initially with the hiring manager, it was really good off the bat.
Awesome. So the thing that really moved the needle out of all those applications was just chatting with the people at the company.
Yeah, definitely. Chatting with the people and also having that cultural fit. That's quite important. Yeah.
Is it fair to say if you could go back in time, you would focus more on the networking and less on the spamming applications?
Yep, definitely. Definitely I would. Even from my first year, I would start using LinkedIn more often. I think I took LinkedIn seriously quite near the end, but never too late to start anything new. But yeah, definitely start LinkedIn, going to more networking events, going to more, what do they have these days? Yeah, like case competitions, for example. You meet a lot of consultants there. Yeah, networking.
Final question before we finish up. I know you have to go. If there's someone watching this, maybe they're struggling as well as you were in the past. They're applying to lots of jobs, maybe hundreds. They want to break into your field or a similar field. What's your advice to them?
My advice, just keep at it. If something doesn't work, change your strategy. There's definitely a reason why something's not working the way you think it should be working. So changing something other than what is not working can help you move forward. And just talk to people. Network. Very important. If not now, then later it can be quite helpful. You never know when you need the people that you meet through your networking. But yeah, those are my top advice. Yeah, if anyone's watching, feel free to reach out to me. I don't check my LinkedIn as often anymore, but I will be after now. But feel free to reach out. And for any international students out there I was an international student before, feel free to reach out. I probably have some tips and tricks for you guys.